Hello, this is how to build KDE software from source on Windows using the KDE tool KDE Craft. I want to build the KDE text editor Kate on Windows. I have a fresh installation of Windows 11 Pro in a virtual machine. And I searched on Google for KDE Wiki Windows. This is the wiki page that I want. Get involved development Windows. So the KDE community has a tool, a build framework that's called KDE Craft, allows to build KDE software from source for various operating systems such as Linux, macOS, Android, and Windows. Says that your Windows operating system version should be. So let's look at the table of still supported Windows versions. There's Windows 11. A very few versions of Windows 10. There's the version from the year 2021, second half. And then there's this LTS version from 2018. So there's a few versions of Windows 10 that are still supported. In security support mode, not in active support mode. Then probably there's going to be extended security updates. But other than that, you have probably just this option. The very latest version of Windows 10. And then for Windows 11, you have most versions. And then there's Windows Server 2025, 2022, 2019, 2016, and we'll probably ignore the 2012, which will end the very extended support, extended security updates in 1 year. Okay, then it says that while the KDE Craft framework itself will provide a Python installation, we should still install Python on our Windows computer. So let's do that. Let's see what is the latest version. 3.13, which hopefully is supported, although it's not listed in this wiki page. I'm going to try with 3.13. That's the current stable release of Python for Windows, 3.13.3. The options provided by the Python installer for Windows are extremely many and complicated. The wiki page doesn't really detail how you should install, but I'm going to guess that we want to install Python system-wide, not per user. So I'm not going to go install now because this is going to install per my user. So I'm going to go customize installation. I could leave all of these options enabled. Let's make it for all users. PyLauncher, test to TCL/TK. This is an integrated development environment. Pip the package manager, we certainly need this. Maybe you could not install the Python test suite, but maybe this is not so large. So let's see. Next, install Python for all users. Precompile standard library, no debug symbols, and these free-threaded binaries are experimental. So the only thing that I have changed on this installer wizard page, advanced options, was to enable the checkbox for install Python 3.13 for all users. And then it has automatically selected the correct install directory, which is c:\program space files, because it's a 64-bit Python. So it doesn't contain parentheses x86 and then Python 3.13 install, which requires elevation as administrator because it's going to install per system, not per user. TCLTK is a graphical user interface toolkit that's then required by IDLE, the integrated development environment, at least. Okay, let's have the documentation on the right half of the screen. And let's continue reading through the page. Install a full installation of Python. Okay, let's look at the version of PowerShell. But we know that PowerShell 5 is available on all of the supported Windows operating systems. It's 5.1. So I should actually remove this part from the wiki page. Next up on the Python installer, it asks if I want to disable the former Windows 32 256 max path limitation. So this is a C define in the Win32 API. Let's disable it. Okay, next up, we will need a C++ and C programming language compiler. We could select between the GNU compiler collection that's part of the MinGW distribution of GNU tools and not only the GNU tool chain for Windows, or we could use the first party C++ compiler for Windows, which is the latest version of Visual Studio, in our case, Community Edition. But Visual Studio is actually required if we want a web engine to be provided by the Qt framework, and we always want. There's a ton of KDE software that will need to render HTML and uses Qt Web Engine. So at this point, there's no really a choice to be made. We're always going to go with Microsoft Visual Studio. After that, after a while, if we really decide that our application will never require to render HTML graphically using Qt Web Engine, then we might consider that we also have the alternative of using MinGW. But in 99% of cases, and when you start building KDE software for Windows, you will always use Microsoft Visual Studio. Okay. We are going to use the latest version of KDE Craft, which uses Qt 6 and which requires Visual Studio 2022. We will want to install the version of Visual Studio 2022 that doesn't cost money, which is Visual Studio Community 2022, one of the possibilities. So it says the homepage of Visual Studio Community, download button, Visual Studio Setup, a small installer that installs a second product, which is called Visual Studio Installer. It's the first download was really small, and now it's actually downloading the components that make up the product Visual Studio Installer. Okay, now the application Visual Studio Installer is installed, and using this application Visual Studio Installer, we could install different versions of Windows, and we have already chosen the one that we want, Visual Studio Community 2022. Let's see how to install this. It should be documented in the wiki page. We need to install the workload, which is from the Workloads tab. Desktop development with C++. Desktop development with C++. Just enable the checkbox. And that's it. The correct detailed individual components have been selected. So some of these are ATL and the Windows Software Development Kit. So the ATL and the SDK for Windows 11. Okay, that's all there is to it. Install. So it's going to download a ton of packages, the Visual Studio 2022 shell, the C++ extension, the C++ compiler, MSVC, etc. ATL, MFC, SDK, etc. Let's see what's next. We want to enable development mode. Let's see how that is done. Enable your device for development. You will need to enable developer mode. I develop using Visual Studio and I do not enable development mode, so it's not needed. Opening a Windows project. So if you open an SLN solution in Visual Studio, if developer mode is not enabled, it will show this dialog box. Okay, so Windows settings and then developer settings. Update and settings, what is that? Toggle the developer mode, this guy, at the top of For Developers page. Turning on developer mode and running applications from outside the store Okay, yes. And then there's additional options to have a device portal. Device discovery. Okay, it's probably enough. Okay, we will wait for the installer to advance. While that is working, the next step says that it's preferred that our language, regional setting, locale, etc. is set to English US, which it is, but we can check. We probably need to run this from the run dialog. Okay, says go to the administrative tab and switch the system locale to the desired value. What is that? English United States. This thing. Okay. Okay, so Visual Studio Installer finished its job. Visual Studio Community 2022 application is installed. Should be available in the Start menu under the V letter, so Visual Studio 2022, an entire directory in here. And this is the application, the integrated development environment, and this is the installer application. Visual Studio 2022 has started automatically. Let's see what it tries to do. Continue without code. Okay. We're not actually going to open Visual Studio. Only the command line tools from Visual Studio are being used. So we can choose not to customize anything in the graphical user interface of Visual Studio. We could just close this application. Okay. My computer requires restart because I have installed some updates and also because I have enabled developer mode and I have installed Visual Studio Community. I'm going to restart the computer now. The option is update and restart. So the computer restarted. Now we have interesting widgets hovering on top of the screen. We're at this step. So it says that we should start the graphical user interface application Windows PowerShell, not PowerShell ISE, and probably we want it elevated as administrator. So let's do that. Windows Start menu, search for PowerShell. Windows PowerShell is the name of the application. Right click on it and run as administrator. Yes. So this is a Windows 11 Pro virtual machine, clean, with many resources allocated, a clean installation. There's just one Windows user being created, and that's the one that was created during the installation of Windows, which is called admin. And this one has enough privileges to elevate as administrator. Okay, that was step one, starting Windows PowerShell elevated as administrator. Step two, we are working around this limitation in PowerShell where you cannot run long command lines because of the need for a signature. I should type A, uppercase A, or the option yes to all. Next up, let's see if Python is on the path. Where.exe maybe. Users admin update a local Microsoft Windows apps python.exe. I'm not sure if these two are the same thing. I'm going to run the second just to be sure. So during installation of Python, I have selected that py.exe should be installed per system, should be available to everybody, all of the users on this machine. py.exe. A new version of PIP, the installer, is available. Let's see if the suggestion is correct. So it says that I should run the full path to python.exe, then the module pip, and then the command line install upgrade pip. We're in PowerShell, so command lines that work in cmd.exe don't work here. Let's actually start cmd.exe. Okay, and now we can exit from cmd.exe, and we're back to PowerShell. Clear CLS, okay, to clear the screen. Next up, we're going to download a file from GitHub. So we're using the KDE build framework KDE Craft. Which is this Git repository, and it's probably mirrored to GitHub. So invent.kde.org/packaging/craft is mirrored to github.com/kde/craft. Let's make sure that that's the case. Yes, it says that this is the GitHub page actually says that this is the correct Git repository. So invent.kde.org packaging craft. And if we look at the history, it says master branch 11 hours ago. And this one says master branch 11 hours ago. So I'm going to guess that the GitLab repository invent.kde.org packaging/craft is still being correctly mirrored on GitHub, because we're using the file setup install craft.ps1, not from the KDE GitLab instance, but from GitHub. So we're not downloading this thing. Instead, we're downloading this thing. And that's done using PowerShell. Go. we will need to have enough room on the hard disk, in my case the virtual hard disk, and in the :\root drive, two directories are going to be created. The most important one, which is :\craft root, and then there's one for making file directory paths shorter, full paths shorter, which is :\, and then the underscore character. I'm going to go with the default, so I'm going to press enter to take the default, which is the option shown in square parentheses. So what it did right now is to download the file install craft.ps1, which is this one. And then it downloaded the next one, which is this guy. We still do not have Git installed on this computer. I should select between MinGW and Microsoft Visual Studio 2022. Of course, we're going with Visual Studio 2022 because we need Qt web engine. :\_, start menu entry, colored logs, we still don't have Git installed. It's actually downloading the entire Git repository as a zip file. And then it starts to download and install binaries compiled for Windows. So the C++ runtime, certificates for root certificate authorities, for curl, curl is available in Windows nowadays. 7-zip, the Windows executable that allows you to extract and compress using a ton of compression formats. You can extract MSI files, XF files, it's going to extract from the resources, zip files, 7-zip files, cub files, etc. CMake. KDE Craft has a cache. It can build most of the needed packages from source, but if the packages have already been built previously and uploaded to its cache, which the cache is this guy, then KDE Craft prefers to download the pre-built archive, so an archive that doesn't contain source code but contains Windows binaries, and it extracts those archives on your computer into the directory that you have selected, which is :\craft root. Okay, let's see what it did then. kshimgen, I'm not sure what that thing is. wget, the alternative to curl, command line executable to download files. Git, portable Git, 7-zip. This is probably from the upstream Git project. It's still installing Git. While that is working, the next chapter is about performance. We're going to build C++ source code and a ton of it because we're going to build KDE projects. For that, if possible, your build computer should be as fast as possible. So I have allocated many virtual CPU threads, a ton of random access memory to the virtual machine, but I also want extra performance, and I do that by disabling Microsoft Defender antivirus altogether using these steps. So from the Windows Start menu, I'm searching for groups as edit group policy, administrative templates for local computer policy, computer configuration, Windows components. In here, I'm searching for Microsoft Defender antivirus, and then turn off Microsoft Defender antivirus local policy. And I'm going to go with enabled. Okay. And then Windows Update from time to time takes a ton of computing resources. I'm going to install updates manually myself when I want. I do not need anyone to run Windows Update automatically. So back to where we were, local computer policy, computer configuration, administrative templates, Windows components. And in here I search for Windows Update, manage end user experience, configure automatic updates, disabled. So the policy configure automatic updates should be disabled. And then the firewall, nothing can connect to the virtual machine. I'm not even sure how that's possible. I'm behind the virtualization software, then behind the network address translation, etc. So I don't need any firewalls. Windows Defender firewall with advanced security. And I'm going to disable all three profiles: domain profile, private profile, public profile. Firewall state off for domain profile, private profile tab, firewall state off, public profile tab, firewall state off. Okay. Okay, let's see what it says. So it did wget, tried git, to install git, batch file cannot be found, but then git succeeded. Then it's trying the patch command line utility. I'm going to run the previous command line again. What should we do if even installing KDE Craft fails? Default is Q. So it says that after installing patch, it will try to install all of these other packages. I'm going to clean up everything. I'm going to use the file manager total commander, run as administrator. There's 2 directories. Hopefully, if I just delete these directories, everything will be back to the uninstall state. So the Craft, KDE Craft is no longer installed. Back to this command line. So PowerShell as administrator 1. I keep pressing enter. I agree with all of the defaults. So the order is cmake, then git, then patch. It seems that this issue can be reproduced by multiple developers of KDE Craft, so I guess that the issue will be fixed probably today. From what I see, it's saying that it could not find a file that should not exist. This path, if you don't duplicate the /usr, it does exist, but that with duplicated /usr does not exist. So c:\craft root dev utils git and then usr. And then inside there is a bin.patch, patch.exe. I tried twice, got the same spot, so there's this error. I have closed all of the craft processes. I have deleted the 2 KDE Craft installation directories, so this one and this one, c:\_c:\craft root. Neither the second time was more successful. So the only thing that I knew how to do is to make sure that this duplicated directory exists on the hard disk. So dev utils git usr, I have created inside another usr directory, and I have copied all of these directories from c:\craft root dev utils git usr inside of the new usr directory. It's not a symlink, it's just I have copied these directories to this directory. Then I have tried again. It will complain that the file already exists. In here, you are trying to install craft into a non-empty directory, and I have commented out this exit early. So ignore what I did as a workaround because the issue will be fixed extremely shortly. So after a number of workarounds, I managed to get at the point where installing KDE Craft appears to be successful. It says setup complete, and it instructs me how to enter the development environment of Craft, which is by issuing this command inside an elevated as administrator PowerShell. But it's also documented in the wiki page in the chapter using Craft. So I'm going to close this PowerShell, open another one. So that was the part where we install. setting up KDE Craft, and now maybe some time later, in another day after you reboot your computer a number of times, you start using KDE Craft. So this is a totally different step. You want to enter the environment, and then you're going to run commands inside the environment. Run PowerShell as administrator. Enter the environment of KDE Craft. It shows you the current configuration of KDE Craft, the install directory, the fact that it is using Windows and Microsoft Visual C++ 2022, and that it's using files which are already built on Windows, if possible. Next up, we should start crafting. So we want to build the KDE Git repository Kate. Let's search for the name of the package. The Git repository is named Kate. The application is named Kate, all lowercase. Let's see what the craft package name is. I'm going to guess it's still Kate, all lowercase. Makes sense. Okay, the package name is Kate, and we're going to use the master branch. The available version is master. And I'm not sure which one is the default. Next up, we want to compile from source KDE Kate, and all of its dependencies should be hopefully installed from Windows precompiled binary files, such that none of the dependencies will need to be built. Okay, so that's just craft, and then the name of the package Kate. Let's see what it did. So it installs binaries for Windows for a ton of the packages that you know from a Linux world, like Bison and all of the Qt6 modules, Qt6 SVG, shader tools, language server, broadly the compression algorithm. Fortunately, all of these exist precompiled for my triplet, which is Windows, MSVC 2022, AMD 64, x86_64. If these pre-built binary archives would not exist in the craft cache, then all of these would need to be downloaded the source code of and then built on my computer. And that would take hours. LLVM, the compiler framework, then the rest of the Qt modules. Now it's downloading pre-built KDE frameworks version 6. Portable Perl compatible regular expressions, docbook, for KDE product manuals. KDoc tools. Python modules, Meson, the build system, glib, the GTK library, libog, the audio codec or container, the AV1D, the AV1 codec, AMF, SVT AV1, 1VPL. These are probably for audio-video codecs. FFmpeg, Qt Multimedia. So the packages seem to be installed in the correct order. The audio-video codecs got downloaded and installed before FFmpeg, and only after that Qt Multimedia could be installed. More KDE frameworks. There's around 80 KDE frameworks. KIO, KDeclarative, Kirigami, theming, KNew stuff, KParts, editor config, KText editor, markdown part. It seems that markdown part was not available in the cache. How do we stop the progress? So it could, KDE Craft could download pre-built archives for almost all of the dependencies of KDE Kate, except for the two parts that KDE Kate uses, which are the markdown part and the console. And now it's probably already building Kate again. It's really hard to scroll in the terminal in this graphical user interface application PowerShell. If you move the scroll one page up, the scroll immediately will move at the end. The scroll in the sense of the scroll bar. So you always see the last line being added. You cannot remain in the past for long. libssh2. Okay, this is where the markdown part has been built from source. On. Some more packages could be downloaded, pre-built. This part is where it's building from source console, but it's not building it from the master branch. It's actually building it from a release tarball, source release tarball for version 25.04.0. Okay. So it's actually building from the master branch just the package that we provided to Craft at the command line. We went with the command line craft space Kate. So Kate will be built from the master branch, but all of the other dependencies will be built from the latest release source code tarball, if the release source code tarball was not already built and uploaded to the KDE cache. Okay, and Qt keychain, and then finally we're at Kate. And even Kate, it tried to download a pre-built package for version 25 of 4.0. So it's not actually building from the master branch. It could download the source code tarball, and then it has extracted the source code tarball and it's running CMake Ninja. Then just Ninja, which is building the source code, and then probably Ninja install to install. 691 C++ files to be built and other files to be generated, especially using the Qt3 executables that generate code UIC, MOC, and RCC, which on Windows are executable files with extension exe. And now it's running Ninja install. It's working with debug symbols. On Windows, these are files with extension PDB. And that's it. It successfully installed Kate. Okay. And now we want to run the installed application, which I don't know how to do. We could create an installer. Good idea. Let's do that. So craft -- package Kate. Requires that you install the NSIS package, which is the Nullsoft installer. Says that we should run this command line. Let's do that. Doesn't have any dependencies, already pre-built, available in the Craft cache. I'm not sure why it's looking for debug symbols. Maybe it wants to include them as part of the installer file. We're using the CMake build configuration real with debinfo, which is the default CMake build configuration. That means that the DLLs and XF files, so the portable executable Windows files, are optimized, and the debug symbol files, PDB files, are being generated. That's the best of both worlds. You get the best executable code possible, but you also get debug symbols to be available, and they're also not part of the portable executable files. In the Linux world, you will need to strip out the debug symbols from the executable files, but in here, in Windows, Microsoft Visual Studio, the debug symbols are automatically part of the PDB file. So it's using 7-zip to create an archive. Unfortunately, KDE Craft uses the term package for two very different things. So a package is, I don't know, Kate or FFmpeg, and then package is also a command line verb for the craft command, which will actually create an installer file for Windows with extension exe, which is what we did. So we went craft space -- package space Kate. It has found that Kate was already built correctly and installed, so it just created a .exe installer file for Windows. And it says in here output is /craft/temp kate version and then .exe. And this is probably the installer. Let's find it. So /craft root temp directory, and if we sort by size, the largest file there, the exe file. So the 7-zip file is very similar to a Linux distribution, contains the contents of a ton of installed packages. There's Harfbuzz, all of the Qt modules, audio video codecs, software example, ICU, and 3 executables. SDL, Z standard, Z library. Okay, and then probably this 7-zip is part of the executable. Let's now install the installer executable file for Windows. It did not ask for elevation as administrator because we're already elevated with elevated total commander. Let's see if we start from Windows File Explorer, we will be asked to elevate as administrator. /craft root temp and this guy. Yes, we can see the shield. It means that the executable will require elevate as administrator. Double click on it. Yes, to elevate as administrator. And then this is an installer wizard, typical for NSIS. If you have ever installed the Windows audio player Winamp, you know this type of installers. Install for anyone. /program files /kate. Start menu. Just extracting an archive, not copying files around. There's a 7a.exe and an icon. Finish. Let's see how the installer went. So /program files. And then there's no directory for a vendor such as KDE, it's just straight kate. Inside the bin directory, we have what we saw inside the 7-zip file. The same file structure, the same files, the same directories. And one of the 3 executables here is kate. Let's double click on it. We actually need to close the other kate instances because I have installed kate for Windows. And I don't want them to interfere. Okay, so I have closed all of the kate processes. And now I'm starting kate. It respects the settings for my user because again I have just installed KDE Kate from its official website. Like this. So kate-editor.org, Windows, nightly, and I have downloaded the 7-zip file, and I have put it in here, /temp/bin/ and then I have just uninstalled the file, the 7-zip file. So now I have 2 installations of Kate, one installed in Add Remove Programs. We can see it in here. Right click on the Windows Start menu, installed apps, and search for Kate. this one, installed using KDE Craft, built from source at least 3 KDE source release tarballs for Kate console and Markdown part. The rest were pre-built executables, pre-built packages from source code release tarballs, but again, not built on my machine, built on the KDE project's machines and uploaded to the KDE Craft cache. And then I have extracted this file to this directory. So it seems that both of these two executables use the same user settings. So now it's showing what I had opened in Kate previously. And it also respects my setting to not show the welcome page. Let's close the search tool window. Let's see how Kate handles a Git repository, for instance. C:\craft root, download, archives, KDE, applications, Kate. So we have the release source code tarball, Kate 25040.tar.xz. Let's extract this thing. How do we do that? I don't have 7-zip yet installed, and I always do install 7-zip on all of my Windows computers. One of the very first things that I do. So AMD 64, this guy. Really small installer, supports a ton of file formats to extract and compress as. .7-zip, extract once, extract twice. And this is the directory we're after, the source code release tarball for Kate 25.04.0. And let's open Kate, which is this file, with this directory as parameter. And it refuses to do so. I'm not sure why. C:\program files /kate /bin /kate.exe and then dot for the current directory. Says that there's no .git directory in here. Things may not work correctly for the projects. But we can open it not as a Git project, we can open it as a directory. So settings, configure Kate, plugins, file system browser. Okay, and now we can see the currently open directory. This is the default behavior of Visual Studio Code. If you go, hey, Visual Studio Code, please open this directory, it automatically shows me that it has opened the directory. So the file system tool window in Kate maybe should be the very first tool window at the very top, like this. And the plugin for file system should always be enabled by default. Okay, let's see if we can open files. Single clicking does nothing, so double click. I'm not sure why double clicking is a good idea. We can see syntax highlighting working okay. The minimap, scroll bar. We can also see the Windows style functionality in the scroll bar. Right click on the scroll bar, bottom, syntax highlighting in the minimap. Let's see if the terminal works. So this should be console, and running inside the console should be Windows PowerShell. Okay, let's look at the file at the process tree. sysinternal sudo c:\10\bin. Where is that directory? /7zip extract sysinternal sudo sort by name procexp.exe process explorer. I agree with the EULA. This is the tree of processes, and we need to look in here for Kate, and we see Kate, and then it says conhost and PowerShell, so it's not actually opening console but PowerShell.exe. No console process. No, or maybe the console part is smart enough to start conhost and PowerShell inside of the Kate process directly. Okay, so this would be it. What I did, I had a clean, fresh installation of Windows 11 Pro virtual machine, and then I have installed the build framework KDE Craft on this Windows machine. This required that I install Python, the latest version, which is 3.13.3. I also needed to install Visual Studio Community 2022. And then I have installed the framework KDE Craft. I have encountered some issues, but again, the issues will be fixed very soon, so you should not encounter the same issues that I encountered. And then whenever you want to use the KDE Craft framework, you just open an elevated as administrator Windows PowerShell window, run these initialization scripts, /craft or /craft and .ps1. And I wanted to actually build KDE's text editor Kate from source code. And for that, I'm following this other wiki page, start crafting, so community.kate.org/craft. In here it says that if we want to build a KDE software, we need to know its package in name in KDE Craft. So for that we go craft space minus minus search space the name of the package. I went for Kate, and that's exactly the package name. Craft space case Kate build KDE Kate from source code, not from the master branch, but from a release tarball. And then because it's a Windows software, I could either run it directly, find the place where Ninja install has installed the Kate executable file, so the k.exe file, somewhere probably at the start of the output of Ninja install. Or you could go even further because it's a Windows computer. You could create a installer exe file for Windows that uses NSIS technology using this command line craft space minus minus package space Kate. And then I have installed the NSIS generated installer file, which is shown in here. So it says output and the name of the file. So it's in c:\craft/temp, the newest, largest file in there with extension exe. After that, the application KDE Kate will appear in Add Remove Programs. You can uninstall it. It appears in the Start menu at letter K, straight Kate. Is installed in c:\program files/Kate. Respects the settings of the Kate text editor. So if you have run Kate on Windows previously, it will respect your settings. Can open directories. The terminal tool window works. You can enable the tool window for file system, and that works. Next, what you could do is to say, I don't want to build Kate from the release tarball, from the latest release tarball 25.04.0, but from the Git master branch. And you do that using this thing, craft -- set version and version name. So let's do that. Copying in Windows is not that easy to have working. Okay, so the package name is Kate. When we have searched, for the package Kate, it says that the installed version is 25.04.0, and we could switch from that version, this one, to version master. So probably the steps are the following. Let's uninstall from Add Remove Programs. The NSIS installer wizard starts, uninstall, show details. The file is in use. In Windows, installing and uninstalling will often not work because files are in use, and that will require you to restart your computer. Click yes to kill the processes, yes. Is deleting all of the contents of the c:\program files/Kate directory. There's maybe 100,000 files in there. There's a ton of localization files and files from many of the packages that Kate depends on, including theming, etc. Icon packs. The installer has finished. Now we probably want to uninstall the Kate package also from inside Craft. uninstall a package, craft ---- unmerge. Copy, edit, and paste, Ctrl V. Delete. Okay. And then we want to switch the branch to the master branch. Again, craft ---- search Kate. And we want to set the version name. Master. And the package name, I'm not sure if it needs to be short or long. The short name would be just Kate. And the long one would be KDE Applications Kate. This thing. Let's try like this. Okay, so what it does, it's going to make sure that a file blueprint settings.ini file exists. And then in there, because it's an ini file, has sections and then pairs of key value. So key is version equals and then value. The category, the section in the ini file will be category / and then what I have provided in, or what I have provided in here. So KDE / application / Kate. And we can see the configuration of the current file of the package Kate. Says that it's going to use the master branch next time I build it. So let's do that. Let's build. So just craft, no parameters, and the package name Kate. And now instead of doing wget and downloading a tarball release or release tarball, it actually does git clone and the correct path. So https://invent.k.org/kd/k.git inside the c:/craft root /download directory. After that, it is running Ninja. It is running cmake configure, then Ninja to build, 691 files to compile or generate, and then compile. And then it's going to install. Installing means copying files from the directory where the files have been compiled to the installation directory, also inside the craft root directory. I don't know, maybe straight into c:/craft root. So the binaries, the DLL files and the access in here in the bin directory, and .h files in the include directory. And then the next steps are to create a package, craft space ---- package space Kate. We'll create a NSIS installer file.exe for Windows. And then you double click on that. It requires elevation at administrator, and it will install it system-wide for all of your users, will appear in add remove programs and in the start menu and in c:/program files. So this is it. This is how to build KDE software on Windows from source, either from the Git master branch or other Git branches, or from release source code tarballs. on Windows using KDE Craft. Thank you.